I am here and I'm so excited. I've got my hands on With a Vengeance by Riley Sager. It is signed. I met the man himself last night. I will admit that I was not super excited about this book. Like, the premise of it is not something that's super exciting to me, and I've heard this is more of a mystery than a thriller, which we all know is not super my cup of tea. But I feel like yesterday I went to an event with Riley Sager talking about his writing of this book, as well as like his writing in general and so on and so forth, and it was so good. I learned so much about him, and he just seems like such a nice guy, and he's so funny. And then we got to take a picture afterwards and meet him, and it was great. But being able to hear about his writing process for this book and the characters and like the behind the scenes of it has made me a bit more excited. I'm back to being not excited when I think about the fact that this was written in third person point of view, which is really not my cup of tea in life. I'm not particularly a fan of third person POV. It's really not for me. But from what I understand in this book, we've got our main character Anna, and she wants to get revenge on these people, and her idea of revenge is them rotting in prison for the rest of their lives. She thinks that, in the words of Riley, that killing them would be too merciful, and she's not feeling in a merciful mood. So she doesn't want to kill them, she just kind of wants them to go to jail. And so they're on this train, and then people start dying. And so now she's in this predicament where she has to protect and save the people that she hates the most. So, and it is broken up into segments of like departure, then we have like 8 p.m., 12 hours until Chicago. And so it's basically like a countdown of time, because everything has to come to a conclusion within this time frame of being on this train. And we will see where it goes. This is going to be a spoiler vlog, and I am going to be reading and annotating this. And I am quite excited to give it a go. Like I said, I'm a little bit nervous, but it's not getting the greatest reviews. It's like a 3.5 on Goodreads, which is worse than Middle of the Night, and I know a lot of people did not like Middle of the Night. I gave Middle of the Night a 4. Middle of the Night was really sad. I love the spine of this. I think it looks so cool, like a ticket. And we also got like a little bookmark. I think it's on my bed. I'll show it to you at some point, but we are going to get started with reading With a Vengeance, and I will obviously check in probably about every 100 pages. It's about a 400-page book, so about every 100 pages we'll go over anything that I've annotated and how I'm feeling about the book. But I'm excited about it. I do love Riley Sager. He is my favorite author, and you know, you can really tell he's like making it, because I'm looking across the way and I can see the Middle of the Night and the only one left. They're both forward facing, and we have House Across the Lake here. I actually don't like House Across the Lake, but his name is getting bigger. On Middle of the Night and the only one left, like the only one left, his name is like a fourth of the size of the title. Middle of the Night, it's like half the size, and in his 9th book, his name is the same size as the title. And that's how you know he's really like making it big, you know what I mean? So, we're gonna jump into it. I do have over here I can show you the bookmark. It's right here. I also got a pin, which I don't really know what that is. It's like this little bookmark. It looks like a ticket to this train. Got our highlighter. I've got a pen over on my nightstand, and then where the red is on here was bright yellow, but I just like ripped off the yellow and put some red there. I'm not going to use these greens, but I think the blues and the red are going to be perfect for With a Vengeance. Okay guys, I'm about 100 pages and 98 pages, so I figured we would do our first little update. So at the start of this book, we start at the departure, and basically there is this train called the Wow, am I already like forgetting the words? The Philadelphia Phoenix, yes. There is this train called the Philadelphia Phoenix, and there is this group of 6 people that all received letter invitations in the mail with a handwritten note on them to basically get them to come on this train. So we're going to go over my thoughts and feelings. So basically, this train is pretty much empty. And it says this train isn't empty, although it certainly feels that way. Coach cars, dining cars, sleeper are all vacant and silent, save for the echo of the train itself, clickety-clacking over the tracks. This train can hold dozens, even hundreds. It is occupied by only 8 people. 7 are alive, 1 is dead. And then there are 6 people aboard this train by her invitation. And then, like, this is the invitation they got in the mail. It says, your singular presence is requested for an overnight rail journey from Philadelphia to Chicago, beginning on the evening of December 14th, aboard the Philadelphia Phoenix, departing 7 p.m., blah, 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 blah. And then it's basically, nothing's compelling about this invitation. It's 1954 after all, blah, blah, blah. And then it says, because now that one of the passengers has been murdered by someone else on this very car, she fears it's only a matter of time before it happens again. Basically, our main character, Anna, is wanting these people to get from Chicago, or from Philadelphia to Chicago. She has incriminating evidence that essentially we've learned so far, because this is a spoiler video, keep that in mind, that these 6 people are all responsible for the death of her whole family, basically. There was this train that one of them worked on, and they've all had a hand in that basically exploded with her brother aboard it when he was getting ready to go to war during Nazi times. Then they all kind of conspired to make it look like her dad was a Nazi sympathizer and that he did this all on purpose so that they could not travel to go take down Hitler. And while her dad's in jail, he gets stabbed to death. And so that's basically what Anna is trying to get revenge on. So we start chapter 1, which is 13 hours to Chicago. Well, section 1, part 1. And Anna is basically on this train, and she picks herself as a statue, anything to make her look like she's not afraid, when in truth she's been scared for so long that fear has sped through her marrow. You know who I am, just as you know why I've gathered you here. If you haven't figured it out yet, you will very soon. And so we go through and we learn that there are these 6 passengers, which are all written here, and as to why or where they're going to be staying. Each name ignites a flare of rage in Anna's chest. These people, these 6 rotten, repulsive, evil people are on this train at this very moment. If she wanted to, Anna could go down the line, moving from door to door, killing them all one by one. And she very much wants to. Ooh. And there's this guy named Seamus who maybe is like her secretly, not secretly, maybe there's like something romantic going on with her and Seamus. Not that it really matters. But basically, he is helping her. There's nobody on the train besides the conductor, or like the person running the train, Seamus, Anna, and these 6 people. She kind of like paid a bunch of people all like to be on the train and then leave. And they're all down for the cause because they want these people to pay as well because they have lost people in this same tragedy. But there was also a good old Taylor Swift reference. Now that, my darling, is how you dress for revenge. Literally this whole book is giving vigilante shit. So then we go through a chapter on each person. We learn about this man named Judd, and on the back of his letter was the note, I know what you did. If you don't come, others will know too. And he is somebody who worked on designing this new train, and he knew, and in his designs, he designed the train to be faulty. He is the one at fault for the design of this faulty train, and he knew that it was faulty. Then we learn about Herb Pulaski, who's also on the train, and it says, it will be in your financial benefit if you come. He's struggling with money, so that kind of gets him on. However, I wrote in my notes, this literally sounds like a scheme. I don't know why anybody would believe it at all. And then they're all going to go meet for like this cocktail hour in the first class train, and when he gets there he sees Judd and he's like, oh my god, like I know this guy, what the fuck. And then they are looking at their tickets and they realize that the invitation only details the trip to Chicago. There's no mention of how they're supposed to get back from there. Oh my god, so they're kind of realizing like, what the fuck is this? Then we learn about the next person, Sally Lawrence, who was this guy Arthur, and we do learn eventually that Arthur is Anna's dad, that she was Arthur's secretary, and she started there when she was 18. She and Anna had a really good relationship. She was kind of like a surrogate older sister to her, and her note said, remember the old you? I do. So that's basically that. And then basically, looking back at it, Sally sees her life as a long series of regrets, starting with the night she entered that bar 12 years ago. She'd been so young then, so foolish, just a woman searching for something primal and forbidden. She found it all right, leading to still more regrets. She remembers staring at the photographs of that night, wanting to both weep and throw up and flat out murder the man showing them to her. So I believe like there were some scandalous photos and somebody blackmailed her, and basically we're like, I'll make these go away in exchange for a favor. Sally told him yes, she'd do anything, just please end this. And another regret for he'd made her go through with it. Still, he kept his word and made Sally ridiculously wealthy in the process, and that's her biggest regret of all. Sure, she's rich, but it came with the expense of so many others, and those boys are dead. A family ruined. One that, if she dares to think about it, treated her better than her own. So we learn a little bit about what Sally did. And then whenever she gets on goes to like the cocktail hour, she sees the guys there. And it says, in that moment, she realizes all her attempts at transformation were for nothing. Even though she's lost 30 pounds, elevated her style, and went from a mousy brunette to a cool blonde, there are still people who see her for who she truly is. Rotten to the core. Then we learned about Edith, and Edith comes from Russia, and Germany. She comes from Germany, and she was like Anna's housekeeper. And her note said, how much will you pay to keep your secret? Because she is now filthy rich. And she's talking about the story about this ghost, basically, and here she talks about, because there right in front of her is another ghost, but it's not Greer Geist coming to haunt her. It's her past. So she's basically seeing that, okay, like her past is coming back to get her. Then we meet our next character, Lieutenant Colonel Jack Lapsford, and his note said, how does it feel to have blood on your hands? Literally so good. And then basically there is this other guy, Dante, and he's not supposed to be on the train. His dad was the one who received the note, Kenneth, and his dad's kind of the one who orchestrated this whole scheme, and he's the one that Anna wants revenge on the absolute most. But he gets on the train, and it's ironic because he's not supposed to be there. The note said, you and I have unfinished business, but even after 12 years, he recognized the handwriting. So he recognized Anna's handwriting and took his dad's place because he wanted to see her. They've had some love affair in the past. And then we moved into chapter 8, which it says, she assumes that's why Sal and Edith's betrayals hurt more than the others. She had once loved both women, which makes her subsequent hatred all the more acute. And then they start talking about Arthur, and this is where I kind of made the connection that Arthur is Anna's dad. Also, I loved this part that was like, God, she hates these people. Hates them with the fiery heat of 1,000 suns. Facing them again, she's overcome with the urge to kill everyone in 100 vicious ways. Shooting them in the head, stabbing them through their cold hearts, ripping them limb from limb. These thoughts are so bad, so ferociously violent, that she almost flees the car out of fear she might attempt to do them. And that would be the worst thing to do. And then we go to learn kind of about like Anna's past and about how after like this happens with her family, her mom ends up, yeah, I don't think I've gotten to it yet. We do learn about what happens with Anna's mom, but she goes and like lives with her aunt, who is her dad's sister, and she slaps her across the face. And Anna goes, why did you hit me? And she says, to see what kind of girl I'm dealing with. The answer is, it seems like a weak one. You should know by now that we live in a brutal and cruel world, populated by brutal, cruel people. Those who react the way you just did, all that crying, all that begging for pity, are doomed. The only way to survive is to accept life's blows and not even flinch. If you do that, the world will know you're a woman to be reckoned with. Very quickly, Anna learned not to flinch. These were Aunt Retta's ways of teaching her a valuable lesson. Absorb your pain, control your hatred, hone your stillness until it becomes dagger sharp. The people who flail and rage rarely accomplish anything, but those who control their emotions, even in the most fraught of situations, they get results. So, like, her aunt was literally a fucking bitch, simply. But 37 men were killed in the explosion, she says, including my brother. All that remained of him were a piece of charred uniform. Investigators believe the impact of the explosion ripped it from his body. And then after that, their house, basically, immediately following the tragedy, blame fell to my father. You know what happened after that? She skips the reminder that she doesn't want to be reminded herself, blah, blah, blah. The day after that, they raided the house for evidence, leaving with an armful of incriminating documents and her father in handcuffs. Denied bail, he was sent to federal prison to await trial. It never happened. On the second day there, an inmate stabbed Anna's father 37 times, one for every person killed in the explosion. And then after that, her mom started to kind of lose her way, and she got into a car, started the engine, and drove it off a cliff. So that's when Anna went to go live with kind of like her deranged aunt. And then on her aunt's deathbed, she's like, Anna, your father didn't do it. She tried to quiet Aunt Retta, who'd said something similar 1,000 times in the 11 years they lived together, that her father was innocent, that he couldn't have done all this horrible stuff, that he was framed. Anna, of course, believed her, just as she believed her father when the police carted him away in handcuffs. It didn't matter that everyone else, the cops, the military, the government, even his own employees, thought him guilty. Anna knew it in her heart. Her father was telling the truth. He swore his innocence. But she knew it was too late. And then in her like aunt's dying breath, she says, I have proof. And she asks, like, not in her dying breath, but as she's dying, she says, I have proof. And Anna says, well, where's the proof? She's like, it'll show itself. And she's like, how do I find it? How do I find them? And she says, they'll find you. When you do, make the people responsible pay. Make all of them pay. And then she dies, basically. Then, basically, Anna goes into the room, and only Dante knows who she is. Nobody else, like, really recognizes her. And basically, she's telling them that she has evidence, and Lapsford says, told you she's bluffing. She only has dirt on Judd. Now she has nothing. On the contrary, I have dirt on all of you. This was just a hint of what's in my possession, and I have copies of everything. Also, this part was so good. It says, revenge is fleeting, vengeance lasts a lifetime. Death would be mercy for you all. And considering what you did to my family, I am not in a merciful mood. Literally iconic. Anna, such a baddie. All of you will be arrested, tried, and I'm certain convicted of both the judicial and the court of public opinion. You will become the most hated people in America, just like my father was. You will lose everything just like I did. You will go to prison and you will die there, maybe as quickly and as violently as my father, or maybe you'll end up like the Rosenbergs. It is my personal goal for you all to have long, healthy lives. And when you do eventually die, broken, miserable, and alone, no one, absolutely no one, will mourn you. Oh my God, the savagery. And then basically they're like wanting to get off the train, and she's like, no, this is an express train, it's not gonna stop. And so somebody pulls the like emergency brake, and I literally wrote, I bet this won't work. And then the first line of chapter 10 is, nothing happens when Jack yanks the emergency brake. And it actually goes into like the way emergency brakes work, which I found kind of interesting, where basically it doesn't stop the train, it like signifies to the conductor to stop the train. But since basically everybody's under Anna's control, it like doesn't stop. And then I wrote a really big note on this page. Basically, he says he underestimated her, that much was certain. Honestly, Judd hadn't given Art Mathinson's daughter much thought at all over the years. For the girl he used to call Candy Cane turned out to have many tricks up her sleeve. And I literally wrote, never underestimate a pissed off woman. Simply. And then chapter 11 has been my favorite chapter thus far. We're talking, everybody's like basically trying to get off the train. They want to stop the train. They want to like get their info to the conductor, and the conductor's kind of like, and Anna's like, no, like, I'm not stopping the train. They're not going to stop it, blah, 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 blah. And so as everybody else is trying to go up to like get the train to stop, Dante stays back and doesn't really care and is talking to Anna and is like, I understand why you're doing this train and the like symbolism behind it, but why Chicago? Like, you could have just taken the train to New York and this would have been quicker. And he's like, you want to watch us squirm. And is it working? Well, do you see me squirming? No. But fortunately, the night is still young. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm gonna go see what the others are up to. Then Dante says, probably beating down the door to the locomotive at this point. And Anna says, it won't work. And then Dante's basically like, now that they know they're trapped on this train, it's only a matter of time before these people start to turn on each other. Which that and this next part I think is foreshadowing, because we know somebody dies. Anna doesn't think so, despite already assuming things will get heated once desperation sets in. She predicts accusations, confessions, blame being lobbed from one person to the next. And while she knows there's a chance they'll go after her and Seamus, hence her knife and his own form of protection, she doesn't think any of them will resort to targeting each other. Again, I think that's going to be some foreshadowing. And then this next part is so interesting. So Dante's dad owns the train now. That was all explained, how he ended up procuring the train, and another reason why he's like the most guilty of this, because he wanted to buy the train from Anna's dad, because Anna's dad owned the train, and Anna's dad kept telling him no. And so everybody's trying to like beat down the door to the conductor, and Anna's like, Sal is beating down the door and says, this is an emergency. I told him one of you would say that. Then why isn't he answering? Because I knew we'd end up here eventually, so I told him not to open the door, after paying him handsomely, of course. Whatever she's paying you, we'll double it. I told him you'd say that too. $1 million. He knew that was coming too. There's literally nothing you can say or do that'll get him to stop this train. But you can stop it, right? On the contrary, not even I can do that, because I assumed one of you would try to imitate me or, God forbid, coerce me through violence. I instructed the engineer not to obey a word anyone said, even me. You're nuts, Sal says. Truly insane. Why would he agree to that? Because everyone who normally works on this train, from the dishwasher to the chief engineer, knows the purpose of the journey, and they were all too happy to step aside, or in the engineer's case, provide assistance. Workers also died because of your scheme. The engineers, a conductor, 2 porters on the railroad, devotion runs deep. They want justice just as much as Seamus and I do, because Seamus's brother was also on the train. So the colonel says, I'm a high-ranking member of the United States Army. I command you to stop this train. And this part is so good. Dante says, retired high-ranking member, which doesn't give you an authority at all. In fact, since this train belongs to my father and since it will someday be mine, I think I'm the one who has the ultimate authority over what happens. Then stop and let us off, Lapsford demands. My name is Dante Wentworth. My father owns the railroad, including the train you're controlling. As you've heard, there are some people out here desperate for you to stop so that they can disembark. Considering these circumstances, I think it's best that, and then he looks over to Anna, and he says, I think it's best that you keep the train moving. Ignore what anyone else says, just as Miss Matheson instructed it. Do not stop the train for any reason until we reach Chicago. This train will not be stopping. Oh my god, so good. So good. I'm loving it so far. Like, it's probably like a 4 as of right now, but again, I'm only like 1/4 of the way through, but I'm really enjoying it. I'm gonna read a bit more and then we will check in. Okay guys, we are making really good progress. Do you see this? Do you see all of these beautimous tabs? Look at that. We are about to start chapter 32, which gets us to 3 a.m., 5 hours until Chicago. I'm about on page 250, and there's about 380 pages left. So I have about 130 pages to go. It's 8 o'clock. I'm definitely, I think, gonna finish this tonight. But last we checked was, I think, around page like 98 or something. Around, yeah, 98. Chapter 12, and we're now on chapter 32. So we have a lot to talk about. Last we talked about was when Dante basically was like, I pretty much own this train and it's not stopping. So following that, the people on the train are like freaking out, and Judd is like, why would you do that? You've just doomed us all, including your father. And then Dante says, maybe he deserves it. In fact, I'm starting to think you all do. So super fascinating. I'm very suspicious of Dante. Like, Anna thinks that he's just like a good guy and that he hates his dad, which we will get into that further. But like, I kind of like don't. I think my current theories is that it's him or Seamus that's doing the killing, or it's like a whole other person that's not been a part of the story thus far. But that happened. Then basically they all decide that they're gonna have like some martinis, and the Lieutenant Colonel Jack starts choking, and he's like, but then someone in the car coughs, then moans, then emits a sickly combination of the two. He's also kind of a suspect, because this happens where he like is choking, and it's almost like he, in my opinion, my theories, is that he is like trying to make a distraction. So basically, then Judd starts choking and stuff, and it says, as Judd writhes on, I don't know how to say that word, on his back, a slick of foam bubbles out of his mouth, like someone afflicted, someone rabid. Flecks of red stain the foam. A bloody, viscous mess gurgles past his lips and oozes down his chin. Speechless, Judd only shudders. Then, with a groan and rattle, he goes still. Judd Dodge is dead. So our first death, and he was in fact poisoned. So now they're kind of on this wild goose chase trying to figure out who would have had the possibility to kill him, who would have gotten poisoned. Was it somebody who was already on the train, like Seamus or Anna or the conductor? Who, it could be the conductor. And whatever. Or was it somebody found the poison somewhere on the train and did that? So it's very interesting, because Anna's like, I don't think anybody knew why they were invited here besides Dante, and I don't think she doesn't think Dante's the one who did it. But I'm almost like, Dante's the only one who would have known to bring poison. But anywho, so they are doing like everybody's like getting pat down to see if they have anything on them. And Seamus is gonna pat down Sally, and Sally says, don't get any ideas, you're not my type. And he says, good, because if I were, I might have to throw myself off this train. I just thought that was hilarious. We have quite a few highlights on the next page, but basically Anna decides she's gonna pat down Edith, because she's just like this older lady, and she's like, let me do it. And then Edith says, come on, let's get it over with. And then she like has a name that she calls Anna. I don't know how to say it. It's Shotzi. And then it says, the word unlocks something in Anna. Not mere anger, although she's plenty angry. It's more complex than that. Anna hates this woman. She hates who Edith is and what she's done. Yet Anna also still loves her, at least the memory of loving her, which is made more complicated by knowing that once thought Edith had loved her in return. Don't call me that. And then another thing Edith says to her is, your mother and father would be proud of how beautiful you turned out. Don't talk about my parents. Anna snaps. They'd be proud, but they'd also weep at the person you've become. Literally crazy. And then, basically, they're all sitting there. All of a sudden, this man kind of comes out of nowhere. And it says, because it turns out there are only 8 passengers aboard the Philadelphia Phoenix. In truth, the number is 9. So we find out that there's somebody else on this train, and his name is Reggie. And he says that he's an insurance salesman upon first meeting. Basically, Anna's like, what are you doing here? There's no room on this train. And he's like, but it's empty. And she says, that doesn't matter. I'm going to ask you again, and this time you're going to tell me the truth. Why are you on this train? Because I made a mistake. I got mixed up on the platform and boarded the wrong train. I wrote that that was sus, and I don't think that that's really what happened, which I was correct. Then we also, somebody makes throws out the idea that maybe Judd killed himself, and I highlighted, is it possible he could have done this himself? And I also wrote, I was kind of thinking that. Then we're continuing down with the pat downs, and Reggie, who is like this new guy on board, he's the only one, like Anna doesn't trust any of the people on board to pat her down besides Seamus, because she has them all here as prisoners, so she thinks they might try to kill her. And then they don't want Seamus to pat her down because they think that he will lie, so they have Reggie pat her down. And she does have a knife leg on her, and it says, sure enough, Reggie's hand's still at the spot where the knife is sheathed. Anna sucks in a breath, knowing he can feel it beneath the fabric, and dreading a second from now when he tells the others she has a weapon. She waits for it, frozen, fearful. She's not concealing anything. So he lied for her, which was very, very interesting. And then he confronts Anna, and then Anna starts thinking about it, and she's like, why did he not tell anybody about the knife? Are you who you say you are? And what are you hiding? And I just put that he is very suspicious. Very sus. Basically, Reggie's trying to talk to Seamus about if Anna is safe, and alone in the room, Reggie takes a long look at the space. It's bigger than he expected, blah, 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 blah. It's a shame he's not going to be able to use it to get a little shut-eye. He needs to be awake and alert for this entire trip. Boss's orders. And I wrote, but I thought he was on the wrong train. Who's this boss? He's clearly not on the wrong train. Pressed against the door, he listens to the group make their way to the front of the train, wondering which one of them on the list of names he'd been given. All of them. Sounds like it. And then we find out that he pulls out, like, he's going through his stuff, and he has a gun, and he says, and now there's another gun on this train. And I wrote, who the fuck is Reggie, and what is he up to? And then basically Dante and Anna and Seamus are like putting a cover over Judd's dead body. And Dante goes, does anyone want to say anything? And Anna says, only that I'm sorry he didn't suffer more. Anna's so funny. The things she says are wild. Basically, we're talking about like the evidence that Anna has found, and she says, do you think we should kill them? Yes, Seamus replied, all of them need to die, and I want to be the one to do it. Anna ultimately decided that death wasn't enough punishment for everyone involved. It was too easy and too quick. Short of kidnapping and torturing them over an extended period of time, an idea she and Seamus discussed at length, the only way to guarantee an adequate amount of suffering was to bring all of them to justice, something that's now impossible. Which one of those bastards do you think did it? Honestly, any of them, including Reggie Davis. You think he's lying? If so, he is very good at it. So they're starting to also be a bit suspicious of Reggie. And then we got to this part where it says, the irony is not lost on Anna. In order to destroy her enemies, they must first be protected. And then we go through that she's kind of realizing that means that whoever poisoned them is somebody who just always carries poison on them, or it's poison that they found on the train. Then we get to this scene with Seamus that is very sus while he's alone in the room, and it says, and I wrote this that I kind of think it's Seamus, that he's the bad guy. Seamus's hands shake as he reaches for his wallet. Damn this trembling. It's gotten worse in the past few hours. So bad he could barely check Judd's neck for a pulse he knew no longer existed. In that moment, he was certain anyone noticed, especially Anna, who rarely missed a single detail. Seamus reaches into his pocket and removes a small pillbox. Reggie Davis never got a chance to find that after being spooked by his revolver. For that, Seamus is grateful, because it spared him a lot of explaining. Resting at the bottom are several pills, chalky and white. Right now there are 5. He knows that earlier the night the number of pills had been 6. So Seamus is like really up there on my list of contenders of murderers. And so basically Anna and Dante kind of have a confrontation in the kitchen. He's making a sandwich and she ends up looking and finding rat poisoning, and he says, come on Anna, you know I had nothing to do with that, but at least you got your wish. Everyone's definitely squirming now. And she says, if you think I'm happy with Judd dying, then you're quite mistaken. I didn't want any of this. And then Dante says, maybe not consciously, but deep down, hidden in a dark place you don't like to think about, part of you wanted this to happen, and the same part of you wishes it would happen to all of them. This is why you planned the trip. You were secretly hoping it would end this way. And then she's like, no, I told you why I planned it, blah, 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 blah. And she says, seeing them in court isn't enough. I want to see their faces when they realize they're cornered in this train. I want them to know that they were trapped by me. I had to watch my father be handcuffed, dragged from our home. Now I need to see the same thing happen to all of them. I need to be there when they're taken into custody. I need to witness their public disgrace. I need to see with my own eyes the moment their lives and reputations are ruined. Then they can have their day in court, which my father was never given, and rot in prison for the rest of their lives. Which is, you know, she's just being a little savage girly at all times. Also, she then has this confrontation in this observation car with Edith. Edith was the one who was kind of like her family's, like nanny slash maid, and she came from Germany and was living with them. She like fled the war, or so she says. And then she basically pinned on Arthur, Anna's dad, that he was a Nazi sympathizer. And then we get this that says, you've testified under oath that you thought my father was a German sympathizer, but it turns out you were merely talking about yourself. So we find out some big info about Edith, that she was a Nazi sympathizer. And so simply fuck her. And basically from her note in the beginning, we're kind of being able to piece together that somebody must have found that out about her and was going to reveal it. So then Anna starts kind of like losing it. Maybe it's lack of sleep. We don't really know. She's just kind of going crazy. And she starts like seeing things, and she thinks she sees her brother. And it says she recognizes the man even though his presence on the train. She's kind of like chasing what is like a kind of like a ghost. And she recognizes the man even though his presence on the train is impossible. He's been dead for a dozen years. Anna can't shake the feeling, despite all the logic and reason and laws of nature, she has just seen her brother. Something funny is that Riley did say that this was not a ghost story, and he's like, or is it? And like, I don't know if he said that to try to prank us, because most of his books do involve supernatural, so we will see. But then we got the real big banger about Edith, and I wrote, fuck Edith. Where do your loyal... So basically, she was being questioned by Kenneth Wentworth, Dante's dad, and he was basically like, you might not remember me. And she's like, oh yeah, I remember you. And he's like, I want to talk to you about the war. What about it? Surely you have an opinion. Where do your loyalties lie, Miss lie, Edith? They lie with my adopted country, of course. Then would you care to explain this? He removes a photograph from his jacket that showed it to Edith. She seized up at the sight of her younger self smiling for the camera. So proud of her crisp brown uniform and the swastika armband around her sleeve, her husband stood next to her dressed in the same, giving a stiff armed salute. So Edith was a fucking Nazi. So fuck this bitch. But basically her and Anna kind of have this argument. Anna finds out this information, and then Anna exits. Then Anna returns to the observation car, and she basically, Anna steps into room B, Edith's room. She knocks. There's no answer. She knocks again. Still nothing. Breathless and panicked, swept up in the dangerous current that takes her through the door. She basically opens the door to see what's on the other side, Edith. Her eyes remain open as if she's staring at the night sky above, even though there's no life behind them. Wrapped around her neck is a cord from one of the drapes, which someone used to strangle her. They've entered the heart of the storm. And I wrote, and now there are 4. There's only 4 of her, like, people. And so when this happens, everybody, like, she screams, everybody runs in, and Reggie is basically like, she wasn't strangled, like, and he basically explains how she was obviously smothered, blah, 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 and she goes, you're not an insurance salesman, are you? No, I'm not. And you did not board the wrong train. I did not. Well, who are you? Special Agent Reginald Davis, Federal Bureau of the Investigation. He's from the FBI. So we've got an FBI agent on board. Basically, Anna had sent the FBI like all of the information, and they were able, he was at work late, and because he was at work late, they sent him on this train. So basically, now that he's revealed this to him, he was told to stay out of the way, and it says staying out of the way is no longer an option because people, you know, are like dying, so he has to kind of get involved. Then we kind of find out what Kenneth Wentworth's like actual motive was for this. Another theory that I kind of have running is that like this person that she thinks she keeps seeing is Kenneth, and he's on the train killing people. But we get this like situation where we're starting to find out, and it says, I hate Arthur Matheson and I want to destroy him. There are other ways than doing this, but this will guarantee it. What do you think makes you hate him so much? He took something from me and now he's going to pay for it with your help, of course, and your reward will be more money than you'll know what to do with. So we find out that there was some bad blood between the two of them. And then basically Herb Pulaski starts thinking that he is next because they're going, it seems like whoever's the murderer is going down the train. It was the furthest away car, then the next one, and now he's next up in line, so he's really panicked. And so he kind of like attacks Anna and puts like a knife to her throat and says, I don't want to hurt you, but I will if I have to. Anna knows the voice. Herb Pulaski, I need to get out of here. There's no way I'm gonna stay on this train, so you're gonna have to find a way to stop it and let me off, or I'm gonna slit your throat. And I wrote that I don't think he's the bad guy, that he's just scared, and that's kind of the conclusion that we do come to. But because he's attacking her, Anna basically kicks him in the balls and then gets on top of him and like is holding a knife to his throat, but he's already kind of cut her a little bit. And as she has like the knife to him, everybody else runs in and they're like, Anna, stop. Dante and Reggie, Sal and Lapsford all looking at her in shock. So that does not bode well for her, but like because she has literal blood on her throat, it's like kind of obvious that she was attacked. And like this next page, we have so much to talk about. So we find out some info about how Anna's aunt came across all of this information, because it's kind of been a mystery this whole time how she had all of this information. And Dante says to her, do you know how she got her hands on it? No, she died before she could tell me. Maybe you should have asked me because I'm the one who sent it. And she's like, you gave it to her? Why? And he's like, do you want the long answer or the short? And she says both. The long answer is because my father didn't care one bit about me. He never has. I spent my entire childhood trying to make him love me. Something it should go without saying no child should ever have to do. Their parents should love them unconditionally, and my mother did. She wasn't always the best at showing it, but at least she tried, which is more than I can say for my father. For as long as I can remember, he treated me like a disappointment. Nothing I did seemed to please him, so I made it my mission to prove him wrong. I joined the family business. I worked hard to try to impress him, and when that didn't work, I returned to a tactic I used as a teenager. Rebellion, which meant digging through his dirt. So that's how all of this info started to come out. And then we find out that one of the big reasons he was targeting Matheson is because his company was going under and he needed to be able to buy this railroad for dirt cheap, and he already had like issues with Arthur. And it says, so your father's company was failing. It would have already gone belly up if he hadn't been able to swoop in and buy your father's railroad for dirt cheap. You discovered a motive. Trust me, that was not the motive. I found out eventually, after years of searching, my father hid things well. I'll give him that. A file here, a document there, and there's the safe in his study, which had a combination that took months to figure out. That's where the bulk of the incriminating evidence was hidden. But what's his reason? I think his reason was heartbreak. It makes no sense. It does once you realize that it was your mother who broke it. My mother and your father were in love, yes, a long time ago, before you and I were even born. They were engaged for a long time, though it didn't. They were engaged for a time, even though it did not last long. And basically, she sent him a letter that said she was leaving him, that she had fallen in love with somebody, and that somebody was Arthur Matheson. I had it wrong, Anna said, the whole thing. This wasn't about money. Maybe it was for Lapsford and Herb Pulaski and all the others, but for Dante's father, it was personal. And what he did wasn't merely an act of sabotage. It was revenge. Dun, 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 dun. Then we're starting to find out, we're finding out like the reason why everybody was involved. We're now learning Sally's story, Sal, and Anna thinks she did it because of some man. She's like, was it Kenneth Wentworth? Well, he was still pining for my mother. Were you in love with him? And she said, I told you I didn't do this because of a man. I did it because of a woman. So then I'm like, okay, is Sally gay? And this takes place in the 40s. Like, being gay was definitely a crime during those times, which is preposterous. And so my conclusion was that Kenneth had photos of her with a woman, and that was pretty much true. That is what happened. He hired a woman to basically like seduce her and then blackmailed her into doing this. And Sally says to him, one way or another, Ken would have made this plan happen. The only difference is I would have also gone to prison. I probably would have been killed the same way your father was. And Anna says there's a chance that could still happen. Literally, Anna is so funny. And so Sally is now kind of trying to convince Anna that it's Seamus. And she's like, I told you I'm not a killer, but what about your Irish friend? Seamus? He's not one either. Please don't tell me you don't actually believe that. What do you mean? What I mean is that he clearly killed Judd and probably offed Edith too. And then she kind of reminds Anna that he didn't get properly searched. So there's that. And then she says, all I gotta say is if I were you, I'd make sure he has not gone rogue. And I mean, I'm already very sus of Seamus. So there's that. And then the last thing I have for this portion is Anna. Seamus says, shattering the quiet. He points to the floor where a thin red line has started to roll beneath the door to room A. Blood. A single revolting ooze along the carpet. And now Herb is dead. So now we only have the Colonel, Sally, and Lapsford left. Everybody else is dead. Judd's dead, Edith's dead, and Herb's dead. And we have Reggie. So literally like half the crew is gone. It's getting easier to follow like who's who because we're losing so many characters. But it's like 8:20 now and I'm hoping to finish the rest of this tonight. It's feeling like a 4. The level in which I'm all over the place is unmatched, but we did finish with a vengeance. Woo! And I did give it 4 stars, in fact. I quite liked it. I don't super remember where, I know I talked about that. I'm like trying to figure out where I was. Guys, I've been having such a lazy day. It's literally 2 o'clock and I've accomplished nothing other than I went on a walk and I talked to my dad on the phone. We're not boring, lazy day, but we're gonna continue talking about this. So we find out that Edith is basically like a Nazi and then we find out that she gets killed. Next, oh no, I did talk about that, about him being in the FBI. I know I discussed that with you guys. So we got to the part where like Herb died. So yes, I think we said that we only had 3 people left. Langsford, Sally, and the Colonel. So basically, he fucking is done to dead. And Lapsford's kind of like, well, everybody's like blaming each other. And Lapsford's like, I didn't kill him. And then Reggie starts talking and is like, I'm not sure any of you could have done it. The door was locked and including the deadbolt, which could only be engaged from the inside of the room. So it gets everybody thinking like, well, what happened? And they're starting to suspect that somebody went through the window. How did they get inside Herb's room? And then how did this, so they think that somebody came through the window and went out. And Seamus is kind of accusing Anna and he has his fist closed and he goes, well, really? How did this get into the room? And Seamus opens his fist and it's Anna's train pin. And she says, because nestled in the palm is a tiny train engine, its surface silvery and glittering, her father's pin. So then they get back and they go and look at Seamus/Anna's room and the window's open, like the cord for the blind or the curtains is gone, which is what was like next to Edith when she got strangled or /smothered. And so I'm like kind of thinking that Seamus is maybe framing Anna, and inside the room one of the windows sits open. No, there's an exactly reason for the killings and Anna knows what it is. So she's trying to figure out what's going on there, but they're basically talking about Judd and like what happened, how did he die, blah blah blah. And so Anna's like gasps and it suddenly hits her. In missing details she's only vaguely noticed, unaware of how important it would turn out to be. Not that she could have known after all. How could something be considered important if it never even happened? He didn't drink it. Anna said to Reggie now. The whole time the martini was in Judd's hand, he never took a sip. The thought that Judd had been playing dead this whole time rattles through her head louder than the train itself. So I wrote, are Judd and Seamus a team? And then they go to like Judd's room, and what she doesn't see is Judd dodge. With good reason. With Seamus and Reggie, when Seamus and Reggie part, allowing Anna the clear view of the room, all she sees is the empty bed tossed aside, or the sheets that once covered what they all thought was a dead body. Judd himself was now gone. So Judd's not dead. So basically they're now going on a wild goose chase trying to find him. They're pairing off into groups to try to find him. So Reggie and Anna are together, Dante and Seamus are together, and then Langsford and Sally, I think, are together. But it's basically like the plan. So we get this point of view from Judd, and he's like, he can no longer lie to himself. He is a murderer, and he'll do it again if he has to. If that's what it takes to escape his fate, he'll kill every single person on the train, which was very, like, get your heart pumping a bit. They end up, Judd ends up, or Reggie ends up getting stabbed, Judd ends up getting killed, and Anna's able to, like, find, like, the way he pretended to be dead, basically. That's something Anna thought about even after they stormed into Judd's empty room and confirmed that he was still alive. But the way Seamus and Dante stiffen on either side of her makes Anna consider that one of them knows more than they're letting on. And I'm like, okay, it's like everybody in on it this whole time. And then Seamus, or no, this is before they went to go look for Judd. But then Dante says he and Seamus will go together, and Seamus says, I'll go by myself if you don't mind. And I wrote that was super suspicious. Like, why is he against going with somebody? And then Reggie tells Anna that, like, well, in my humble opinion, I think you'd make one hell, or is there like a little bit on the page before? There was one spot where it was like, no. Are women agents? No, not yet. I do enjoy a challenge. Permission to throw the guys back in the slammer? Permission granted. I'll start the search gallery. So I love that, like, Anna's thinking about maybe getting a job for the FBI, and then somebody stabs Reggie. Judd Dodge has struck again, and this time he is no longer targeting the guilty. Also, they're like, what's happening? How is this happening? They're like, they're going on the roof. Whoever it is on the roof. And they said the roof. He's on the goddamn roof. And, like, this part just especially because it's cold outside and, like, snowy, it's giving the Polar Express. That's what I wrote, which is my favorite Christmas movie, so I liked that. And so Anna is stitching up Reggie, and he's, like, basically asking her on a date. And she's like, are you asking me on a date as I'm giving you stitches? Maybe. We could go as friends. Friends? I guess you don't have much of those either. I've been busy. Plotting vengeance? Yeah, for the past year, every thought, every action, every damn minute has been spent preparing for this night. And now, it's all gone to hell. Simply. Basically, she's trying to figure out what's been going on, and that there has to be more than, like, one person doing the killing, because, like, more things are happening, and it could not, like, it just wouldn't have worked out for it to be Judd doing all of this. And so it says if that's the case, or then there's the fact that it's unclear how long Judd's been dead. There's no Anna's not a doctor, so she could be wrong about this. Yes, it's likely that in the past hour or so, someone discovered his hiding spot and murdered him. But it's equally possible that he's been dead since long before that, including while her last guy was still alive. If that's the case, then someone else knew all along that Judd was alive, because they'd seen him they'd been in on it. There's a second killer on the train, and Anna knows who it is. And I wrote, my money is on Seamus or somehow Kenneth, which is Dante's dad that was supposed to be on the train that, like, he took his place. And then we have another mention to these pills that Seamus is carrying, and it says Seamus retrieves a pill box which he carried with him all night. Now his hands shake so much that the remaining 5 pills inside rattle together, and I'm like, what the fuck's going on with these pills? And then we find out that Seamus is sick and he's dying, and he's been given 5 years at most. And then we notice that Seamus's gun is gone. So that's pretty bad news. And then they hear a bang, a shatter, another bang. They were gunshots, 2 of them. So they go in and they see that Sally has been shot in the head, and Seamus hands her the sheet. Anna quietly and reverently drapes it over Sal's body. She leaves the room without another word, waiting until Seamus closes the door behind them before whirling around to face Dante. You, she says, it was you. And I wrote, I don't think it's Dante. I think Anna's wrong. I don't think he has anything to do with it. I think he's actually kind of a good guy. And so Anna is hearing some noises. She busts into the room. She's like, Reggie said we're gonna have to catch the killer in the act, and she does. And a man, Anna realizes, one with a pillow in his hands, which he presses over Lapsford's face. Then the man rolls off her and stands, allowing Anna a full view of the face she most expected to see and hoped it wouldn't be. I'm sorry, Seamus says. You weren't supposed to know. I knew Seamus was sketch-tastic, and she tells him, like, we didn't agree to this, we wanted them alive, and he says, no, Anna, you wanted that. I wanted vengeance, in whatever form it could come, and if that meant them rotting in prison, I would pretend to be okay with it because it was better than nothing. The truth is, I thought they deserved to die, every last one of them. Then why'd you go along with my plan? Because I'm in love with you. Oh my God. And then she's asking him how it felt, and he goes, it was beautiful, the sweetest release I've ever felt. Even though it meant dooming yourself, you're forgotten. I'm already doomed. And then he opens the car door and Anna yells, stop, and he simply steps off the train, dropping out of sight and unalives himself. So that was crazy. That was crazy. And then Anna starts to think, and it's like in her head she thinks, when I got the opportunity to murder one of those bastards, I took it. One. Of all the murders on the train, Seamus only admitted to one of them, and she can think of just one reason why he didn't confess to the others. Because they were committed by someone else. And I literally just wrote, fuck. Also, you guys are gonna die, of course. Of course, I can't just get through this. Okay. Okay. So then everybody remaining alive is in car 12. They have basically Dante tied up, and it says Dante struggled against his binds 2 rooms away. A constant motion that moves the covering millimeter by millimeter until the last one nudges and it drops away. When it does, another change occurs. Sally opens her eyes, and I literally wrote, what do you mean? Because we saw her with like a bullet hole in her head. But apparently Sally is still alive, and she says, and so basically the killer waits until almost 7 a.m. to make their move, gliding through the cars. The killers are right outside Lapsford's door. A slight creak of the agitated hinges. When the killer looks inside, they see something. They see someone seated in the chair by the window. Not Jack Lapsford. Anna. She smiles and says, hello, Agent Davis. Feeling better, I see. So he was suspicious after all, and he was committing murders. We basically find out all about how he had, like, his dad was working on the train and his dad died. And when he basically got put on this mission, he was like, I'm killing these people. So, and then he's basically like, she says we have different ideas of what, like, vengeance looks like. And he was like, we don't have to. They're bad people. They took everything from you. You deserve to do the same to them. And there's like, well, Kenneth isn't even on the train. But what if I refuse to go along with this? Are you gonna kill me? Yeah, Reggie says. That's unfortunately the plan. But what if I kill you first? And he says, and like she pulls a gun on him. He's like, before you shoot me, do you honestly think I'd give you a loaded gun? And she says, no, I didn't. And do you honestly think I'm the only one who knows you're the killer? Oh my God, Anna is just so sassy, and I love it. And then she shoots him in the leg, which is kind of like a callback to him being like, basically saying that you need to just shoot him in the leg to like make them not mobile. And then, well, she shoots the glass out of the observation cart, and they fall through. And I literally wrote, damn, still giving Polar Express. Where's that homeless guy with the fire? Literally was the vibes it was giving. And then basically fear closes around Anna like a fist. She's basically banging on the like conductor, or like the engineer, like the guy running the train. I don't know the names of train people. She's screaming, the door opens, and what supported her now is just the void. She falls right through if it wasn't for someone else filling the space. Relief fills her when the door opens. But it's not Bert Chapman standing on the threshold pulling her to safety of the locomotive. It's someone else entirely. Someone who's been on this train the whole time without her knowing. Kenneth Wentworth. And I wrote, I knew this bitch was there. I knew it. And basically we find out that, like, since he owns the train, he's like, you think like I wouldn't know that somebody bought out the whole train? Like, or do you think I'm dumb? And so basically he's talking about why he wanted to get rid of her dad and everything, and he's like, no, he stole her. He stole the life I was supposed to have with her, the family I was supposed to have with her, the son that should have been mine. Dante, he's been yours the whole time. I meant my other son. And she goes, Tommy, which is her brother who died. Dante shares many of the like, Tommy, she says, unable to keep herself from searching Wentworth's face for a hint of her brother's. They're everywhere. The smile, the eyes, the easygoing grace. Dante shares many of those traits, which is why Anna thought it was her brother she saw roaming the Phoenix. But it wasn't Tommy she was seeing. It was his half-brother. So, turns out Anna and Tommy are only half-brothers, and Tommy's also brothers with Dante. And then, basically, Reggie's like, you know, like, they're talking about, she's basically got her gun, and she's angry, and Reggie says, you know what to do, and she thinks about Seamus, and it says, you know what to do, you can end this, Anna can, and with one sudden pull of the trigger, she does. And I wrote, but who does she shoot? Is it somebody on the train? Is it herself? What's the tea? So she basically they arrive in Chicago, and the living people are being arrested, and Wentworth goes, what's the evidence you've been talking about? Have you even looked at it? We have. And what does it show? That you're gonna die in prison. I just wrote, hee hee hee, so funny. And then the little, like, happy little ending that I loved was that the, like, head of the FBI, or head of the Philadelphia Bureau, Ed Vesper, says, I just wanted to congratulate you. You got them. Not all of them, Anna replies. You got enough. You should be proud of yourself. And then he asks her what she's going to be doing next, and she's like, I guess I'm going to need to get a job. And he says, may I make a suggestion? Come work for the Philly Bureau. I'm not security material. Or secretary material. Who says anything about a secretary? I'm talking about becoming an agent with the FBI. Yeah, Agent Davis told me. Also, Reggie Davis, he confessed to his crimes to basically make sure that Anna got off the hook. He said, you're smart, got great instincts, and can handle yourself in a fight. Also, it's clear you're not afraid to shoot a fella if needed. And you believed him after what he did? Well, was he lying? No, all of it's true. Then I encourage you to put those skills to good use in more of an official capacity. And that was the end of With a Vengeance, and I gave it 4 stars. I know that this doesn't have a great rating on Goodreads. I don't get why. I thought it was a fun time. I had fun reading it. Is this my favorite Riley Sager book ever? No. I have figured out where it goes in the lineup, and this is going to be book number 5 in my order. My order is, I don't know if I've mentioned it here. No, I think it was my other video. My favorite is The Only One Left, followed by Home Before Dark, followed by The Last Time I Lied, then Lock Every Door, then this book, then Middle of the Night, then The House Across the Lake, then Survive the Night, and then Final Girl. And that is my conclusion on With a Vengeance. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you next time. What's your most anticipated release of the year? And did you like it? Bye!